Top 10 Most Popular Books by Charles Todd. Charles Todd is the New York Times best-selling author of the Inspector Ian Rutledge mysteries, the Bess Crawford mysteries, and 2 standalone novels. A mother and son writing team, Caroline passed away in August 2021. Charles lives in Florida. 1. The Shattered Tree, 2017. A wounded officer is brought to battlefield nurse Bess Crawford's aid station, where she stabilizes him. The odd thing is, the officer isn't British, he's French. But in a moment of anger and stress, he shouts at Bess in German. When Bess reports the incident to matron, her superior offers a ready explanation. The soldier is from Alsace-Lorraine, a province in the west where the tenuous border between France and Germany has continually shifted through history, most recently in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, won by the Germans. But on which side of the war do his sympathies really lie? When the French officer disappears in Paris, it's up to Bess to find out why, even at the risk of her own life. 2. Racing the Devil, 2017. During a heavy rainstorm in England, a driver loses control on a twisting road and is killed in the crash. Was it an accident due to the hazardous conditions? Or premeditated murder? Investigating this perplexing case, Scotland Yard Inspector Ian Rutledge discovers that the truth is elusive, and that the villages on the South Downs, where the accident happened, are adept at keeping secrets, frustrating his search. Determined to remain in the shadows, this faceless killer is willing to strike again to stop Rutledge from finding him. This time, the victim he chooses is a child, and it will take all of Rutledge's skill to stop him before an innocent young life is sacrificed. 3. A Casualty of War, 2018. Though the Great War is nearing its end, the fighting rages on. While waiting for transport back to her post, Bess Crawford meets Captain Alan Travis from the island of Barbados. Later, when he's brought into her forward aid station disoriented from a head wound, Bess is alarmed that he believes his distant English cousin, Lieutenant James Travis, shot him. Then the captain is brought back to the aid station with a more severe wound, once more angrily denouncing the lieutenant as a killer. But when it appears that James Travis couldn't have shot him, the captain's sanity is questioned. Still, Bess wonders how such an experienced officer could be so wrong. 4. The Gatekeeper, 2018. A restless Ian Rutledge drives aimlessly, haunted by the past, and narrowly misses a motorcar stopped in the middle of a desolate road. Standing beside the vehicle is a woman with blood on her hands and a dead man at her feet. She swears she didn't kill Stephen Wentworth. A stranger stepped out in front of their motorcar and fired a single shot before vanishing into the night. Although he is a witness after the fact, Rutledge persuades the Yard to give him the inquiry, since he's on the scene. But is he seeking justice, or fleeing painful memories in London? When a second suspicious death occurs, the evidence suggests that a dangerous predator is on the loose, and that death is closer than Rutledge knows. 5. A Forgotten Place, 2019. The Great War has ended, and battlefield nurse Bess Crawford has been assigned to a clinic for amputees. She does her best to help them, but it's clear that they have nothing to go home to. Their officer, Captain Williams, writes to describe their despair, and his own at trying to save his men. Bess feels compelled to look into their situation, so she travels to Wales but is told Williams has left the valley. Fearing that he intends to kill himself, Bess follows Williams to an isolated, storm-battered peninsula. Deserted by her frightened driver, Bess is stranded among strangers suspicious of outsiders. She quickly discovers these villagers are hiding something, and she's learned too much to be allowed to leave. 6. The Black Ascot, 2020. An astonishing tip from a grateful ex-convict seems implausible, but Inspector Ian Rutledge is intrigued and brings it to his superior at Scotland Yard. Alan Barrington, who has evaded capture for 10 years, is the suspect in an appalling murder during Black Ascot, the famous 1910 royal horse race honoring the late King Edward VII. His disappearance began a manhunt that consumed Britain for a decade. Now it appears that Barrington has returned to England, giving the Yard a last chance to retrieve its reputation and see justice done. Rutledge is put in charge of a quiet search under cover of a routine review of a cold case. But his sanity is suddenly brought into question by a shocking turn of events. 7. A Cruel Deception, 2020. Sister Bess Crawford, who has been working with the severely wounded in England in the wake of the Great War, is asked to carry out a personal mission in Paris for a matron at the London headquarters of the Queen Alexandra's. When she locates Lawrence Minton, she finds a bitter and disturbed officer who is well on his way toward an addiction to opiates. He tells her that he doesn't care if he lives or dies, as long as he can find oblivion. But what has changed him? What is it that haunts him? He can't confide in Bess, because the truth is so deeply buried in his mind that he can only relive it in nightmares. The officers who had shared a house with him in Paris profess to know nothing. Still, Bess is reluctant to trust them even when they offer her their help. 8. A Divided Loyalty, 2021. Chief Inspector Brian Leslie is sent to Avebury, a village set inside a great prehistoric stone circle not far from Stonehenge. A young woman has been murdered next to a mysterious, hooded, figure like stone, but no one recognizes her, or admits to it. Despite a thorough investigation, it appears that her killer has simply vanished. Asked to take a second look at Leslie's inquiry, Scotland Yard Detective Ian Rutledge also finds very little to go on in Avebury, slowly widening his search beyond the village, only to discover that unlikely, possibly even unreliable, clues are pointing him toward an impossible solution, one that will draw the wrath of the yard down on him, and very likely see him dismissed if he pursues it. 9. A Fatal Lie, 2022. A peaceful Welsh village is thrown into turmoil when a terrified boy stumbles on a body in a nearby river. With little to go on, the village police turn to Scotland Yard for help in identifying the body. When Inspector Ian Rutledge is sent from London to find answers, he is given few clues: a faded military tattoo on the victim's arm and an unusual label on the collar of his shirt. They eventually lead him to the victim's identity, Sam Milford. By all accounts, he was a good man and well respected. Then why is his death so mysterious? Rutledge uncovers a web of lies swirling around a suicidal woman, a child's tragic fate, and another woman bent on protecting her past. But where among all the lies is the motive for murder? 10. An Irish Hostage, 2022. The Great War is over, but in Ireland, in the wake of the bloody 1916 Easter Rising, anyone who served in France is now considered a traitor, including nurse Eileen Flynn and former soldier Michael Sullivan, who only want to be married in the small, isolated village where she grew up. Even her grandmother is against it, and Eileen's only protection is her cousin Terence, who was a hero of the Rising and is still being hunted by the British. Bess Crawford had promised to be there for the wedding. And in spite of the danger to her, she keeps that promise, only to be met with the shocking news that the groom has vanished. Eileen begs for her help, but how can Bess hope to find him when she doesn't know the country, the people, or where to put her trust? Bonus: The Cliff's Edge, February 2023. Restless and uncertain of her future in the wake of World War I, former battlefield nurse Bess Crawford agrees to travel to Yorkshire to help a friend of her cousin Melinda through surgery. But circumstances change suddenly when news of a terrible accident reaches them. Bess agrees to go to isolated Scarfdale and the Neville family, where one man has been killed and another gravely injured. The police are asking questions, and Bess is quickly drawn into the fray as two once close families take sides. When another tragedy strikes, the police are ready to make an arrest. What dark truth is behind these deaths? And what about the tale of an older murder, one that doesn't seem to have anything to do with the Nevilles?